So I, again, have been in test data management for a bit, quality assurance throughout my career. And I've seen TDM evolve a lot, right? And it's been fun watching AI and ML making its way into TDM. Of course, it's been there, but I think it's getting a little more prominent now, and we can see it, very quickly making changes in our life. So let's talk about TDM, what it can do, what are the ways, and we'll get into a little bit. So bear with me as I go along. So what is test data management? Uh, I think a lot of us are from QA world. So would anybody like to take a stab?
Providing data for the test cases.
Great. Thank you. Thanks for Vijay starting it. Why didn't you take a candy for that?
Oh, okay.
Okay.
That is the prize as well. Participate.
So yes, there are multiple ways test data management can be defined, right? So we can start with test data. What's test data? Something that you would use to drive your testing, right? Data that as inputs to your testing system, if you will. So there are many ways you can define it, and this is just one of them, right? So I think I have myself seen multiple definitions in my paper a couple of years back. I had defined it differently. It's different now, but to sum it up, right? I think it's the right data in the right environment, the right duration. I think the time frame is getting smaller nowadays. People want it quicker, self-service, automated, AI driven, if you will. It's getting more and more and more. So this is just a base version of it. So, and they want good quality, right format. You want it in a flat file. You want database, and so on and so forth. So I think there are a lot of add-ons to this, but this is just an idea of what's test data management. So as soon as we talk about test data, this is the frowning face we get from testers. We all know that it's difficult to get data, and I think there's been a research, and we find out that about 50% of a tester's effort, 50%, right? 20, 30, the minimum, but 50 on average is spent by a tester sourcing data, maintaining data, fixing it, cleaning it up, reruns, and all that stuff. So that's a huge number, right? And we can just pause and think about it. For people in a management role, this is how I start and say, hey, here's an opportunity, right? You have 50% of the effort that you can shift left. You automate your test data, you improve the speed, you can definitely shift your testing left and your whole SDLC left. So that's the impact that we're talking about. Everybody's got the challenge. Everybody testing. I'm sure all of you have been a test data management expert in some form or the other, and nobody wants to talk about it. It's like a known elephant in the room. It's just thought that, okay, here's a problem we have to live with, but not really. Let's talk about how we can see and how we can make our testers more happy, right? A smiling face would be great. So there are a couple of approaches, right? So there are many approaches. Let's talk about three main categories, and that's what I've covered in my white paper. Please feel free to look it up when you get a chance. And the first one is the legacy way, the masking. You get your production data, you either subset it, or you get a larger volume, you mask it, you move to a staging environment where you kind of run all these algorithms. Of course, you have to find the PI elements. That's a huge deal. I think running the masking is the easier part. You have to find the PHI, PII, whatever sensitive elements you have in your database, in your files, whatever the relationship it is, and then you go and operate on it. Of course, in very regulated places, you have to get approvals as to what algorithm you're going to use. Hey, for name, I'm going to use this algorithm, and it's non-traceable backward and stuff like that. So there's a lot of meticulous, effort involved right there. And at the end of all that, you're not 100% sure that your data is fully masked. I worked in Fortune 100 companies where we spent multiple weeks to get this done. And then at the end of it, you would still get a team back saying that we had a validation team who would run validation against production to see if there was slippage. We would have some fields that have slipped out. Of course, it's fine because there's a theory of relativity that says, hey, if 100 fields are there and only one field comes down, it's anonymous, so it's fine. But anyway, it's up to the organization to decide. Taking a step back, it's a great approach, but there's pros and cons. You have a great way you can get a huge volume of data from production. You can mask it, use it for your testing. But production data is not sufficient. when we did a assessment of how much coverage would production data bring, it would be about 50%. Even if you took a 5-year, 7-year, 10-year gap. Why is it so, right? You might ask me, hey, production data, everybody's going in, putting in data right there. It's because people love happy path. You wouldn't fill the non-mandatory fields. You wouldn't put remarks, to the end of the character limit. Somebody would do it, and it can just break the whole system. So long story short, even though you get production data, there is some pros and cons. Cons being that it may not have the best coverage, so you have to complement it with something else. But this is just one approach. I'm going to leave it there. And if you have questions, feel free to ask, and happy to break the flow, if you will. The next approach, right? But let's just go one step back. Sorry, but there is AI ML induced right here as well, right? So you see, when we get a way we want to identify PI data, now we can use AI to find algorithms, column names, matching regex and stuff like that, and identify some sort of initial set that can be reviewed faster. So that's where you see the induction of AI and ML right there. All right, going back to the second approach. So second approach is synthetic data, right? I was just talking to, I'm not going to take names, but a company CEO like a week back, and he said, hey, I get this huge demand for synthetic data now. What's the deal, right? And we talked about it for a bit, and now they are realigning the product to even produce synthetic data from scratch. So why is it so, right? And where is the use? A lot of healthcare industry and other places, you see files, you have systems that transmit files with PII, PHI, and it's very easy to generate this data from scratch because you have very well-defined structure and so on. It's great for ground-up applications, right? Where you don't have a greenhouse application wouldn't have a greenfield, sorry, wouldn't have a production data set where you can mask it from. So it's you don't have any option there. So those are a few places where you can think of synthetic data. Plus, you have tools that are amazingly fast now, right? You can have it, running on a server. You can do API calls to trigger your data creation. It can write into databases. It can write into flat files, and so on and so forth. And it can generate volumes of data that you can, use for performance testing, functional testing, whatever you need to. Plus, it can also be used to do machine learning, if you will. So that's another, give back of this system. So where is AI/ML again interesting here, right? So you have these functions or generators, like let's say a name generator, right? What would say generate a name of, let's say this North America, if you will, the state, if you will, and it can generate all these names by default. So you can map it using AI and ML, right? So of course, human intervention is needed to review it, correct it, and so on. But an initial version can be done using that approach. And that gets better. You have domain-based approach. So it learns by the domain and says, oh, these are my domain users. And in this domain, for this particular field, typically this is the generator I should apply. So SSN, mathematical operations, and so on and so forth. And all right, let's move on. So the third approach is the kind of future-looking model, if you will. But again, it is towards existing data. So you need production data or some existing data for this. What is this approach, right? So it's going to look at the data, it's going to learn from it, and it can replicate that data in low environments. So it can create a model for itself, and it learns exactly what ratios of production data do you have. How many male, how many female, how many states from, Oregon, somewhere else, and it will retain the same ratio in the generated data. And I'm going to get a little deep into this, and I'm going to show you a demo on this one to see how you can actually, have some production data simulated, and we're going to generate some synthetic data and see how it works. And I'm going to do it with the open source tool, so you all can try it at your free time as well. All right, so that's quickly about these three approaches. There are many more approaches. There are a combination of these approaches. You can do masking. You can complement it with synthetic data, because I'm going to talk about one sample application I have, right? I will show you how it makes a difference. And so it's numerous, but I will just pause here and get into the demo. But does anybody have any questions for now? Okay, awesome. I'm guessing it's all going great. So, okay, let's not go there. But let me start with this particular screen. Maybe I should just mirror. Maybe it's easier. Um, No, you can see the screen there, right? Okay, awesome. So this is a simple application I have running on my machine. It's a 2-page application. Uh, you fill your details, name, address, etc. You say opening balance, and you hit the submit button, and it goes to the next page where it adds a 200 opening, account balance bonus for you and creates a new account. Simple, right? So it's got a database in the backend. So what I'm trying to simulate here is think of this as your production application. It's got a backend database, which I will show you. So again, I am trying to move this into the window. I think it's easier to do a mirror, I'm guessing, but we'll do it one by one. That's fine. So this is a simple 2-table database it's got, right? It's got account balance and applications. So what it's doing is all the content from here is getting stored, and this is the sample data. So think of this as your production data for now, right? And it's got sensitive information. You have emails which you cannot share, phone numbers, addresses, and so on. So let's see what we can do with it. So TD Spora is the tool that I'm talking about. It's an open source tool from EPAM. You can go and download it. I can share the URL in the end of the conversation. But I have set up an open source instance on my own machine. What we're going to do is look at this data. We're going to run a learning process, machine learning. It's going to learn from this data, look at the data, attributes and stuff like that, and create synthetic data, right? So there is an interesting page that is available here about TD Spora, which kind of shows the overview. And this is what I'll be doing, define scope, train the AI, generate data, and share. You can share the model down to a low environment and run the generation right there. So here's my command prompt. I really wish I could have shared it as a mirror. Can I try sharing it as a mirror? Does that work? Mirror my desktop. Okay, that's fine. So where is the terminal? Here's the terminal. Okay, so it's a command prompt based, application for now. Here's the folder structure. I'm not going to go into too much detail, but if anybody has got questions, you can come back to me and I can share more details. But I'm just trying to show it live to all of you. So this is the folder structure that I have. What I'm going to do is go ahead and train the model first. It's going to pick up from sample files. So just before this call, what I did was I got in sample files, the resource where I got some sample files from the application.csv. It's just a right click and download. Of course, we can use AI again here. So I have a small utility here, which I said, hey, Elitas R2, right? I said, go create a tool for me in a few lines of Python code that I can extract the database content into a CSV file. So I'm just running that and it gets all the tables and puts it into a folder. So again, AI/ML right there. But this is the content in the files, and it's looking at this files. For example, let's say application, right? It's something like this. There are 2 files. There's application 1 and application right now. Application is a simpler one. You just got some records, about 11 records, and it does take some time to run if I want to run multiple echoes and stuff like that. So epochs is how many iterations it's going to go through the data and learn from it. And then it's going to look at that data and infer, right? But let's go with a smaller subset. I'm just going to point it to the application 11 or so records, and I'm going to say, go ahead and train. But before I do that, let me just make sure that I have the smaller number. Yes, that's fine. Awesome. So I'm going to hit the enter key. So what's happening is it's going to run pretty fast, if I'm not wrong. And what it's going to do is look at, it's training. You can see the epochs. There are about 50 runs happening on the fly. And what it does is it goes, looks at the data, iterates through it, and it's creating a model. This model, it's got different, differential integrity in place, which kind of avoids back tracing, if you will, right? So reverse traceability is not easy. So that's the file that we have right now. And you can see it doing some things in these folders. It's creating some files at 4:50. I'm sorry, my time zone is CST right now on this machine, but you can see that it's going through multiple iterations, and every time it's improving the loss, right? So it's getting better. So it's correcting itself. It's getting the model better and better, so it can generate better data. So quick pause. Am I with you all? Any questions? Okay. So as it's doing this exercise, accuracy in terms of
Data generation, the training data.
Mhm.
So you are using the training data
Yeah,
and then testing it out.
correct. We'll come to that. Good question, Vijay. But right now we are still just teaching the model. We are making it learn. Hey, go look at this data, learn about it. It's like a kid going and reading a page of article and learning from that. Yes, please.
Online question from Jen.
Mhm.
How do you know the model is better?
Better. We will look at the results and then you decide if the model is better or not. All right. So
That's the testing.
no, again, this is the open source version that I'm showing you, right? So it's not going to be super effective, but we do have a enterprise license version as well, which is worked on, enhanced, and a better model, if you will, right? So we have data scientists working on it actively who keep improving it and stuff like that. And you can, yeah, let's see. I will show you some examples, and probably the question is going to get answered as we go along. But great question. Thank you for that.
What tool is this?
All right, so let's see where our okay, we are at 99. So I think I'll let it run. So I will show you all what's happening, but I will just show you what I ran a few minutes back, right? So you can see at 4:20, that was about 10 minutes before this meeting started. So I created that copy right here, and I'm going to open the CSV file. So it created, I just asked for 15 content, right? You can, of course, create a larger volume. It's very easy to generate larger volume, but training is a bigger, heavy load lift on it. So it created content like this, looking at a CSV file, which was quite different. So I can open the source for you. And again, just to refresh your memory, right? The source was pretty different. So it was application one. So you can look at that and see. It's not going to be an excellent, thing, but it's going to create synthetic data for you by creating different variations of it. So emails are different. Your phone numbers are going to be different. Of course, you can also make it learn with more data. This was a very small subset of data that we gave, right? So production data may be hundreds and thousands of rows of data, and this is just running on my local machine. So you have a stronger server, run it on a larger set of data, and maybe give it half a day if you have to, right? What's the harm? And it'll learn and create a beautiful model that you can use in your lower environment. So that's the output right in front of you. We are able to generate it pretty quickly. I think I have it at a larger volume. So I think I'm using the different file, but I'm going to continue the flow and we'll come back to see how the data got generated. Okay. So any questions about TD Spora or the synthetic data generation part of it? Okay, looks good, bad, so ugly.
Well, as far as learning, is there a generic command that you ran there, or is it
Yep.
a customized file with like some type of YAML?
Great question again. So it's yes, there's a config file. So there's a command and a config file that's passed on to it. So I wish I could show you the command right there, but let's see if I can scroll up all the way. So one of the parameter is a file too. So it's a good question, right? And that file determines a lot of the attributes, like how many epochs, where is your source file, CSV file coming from, and stuff like that. You can even configure, keys, and you can give a pass through. Like I can say, hey, out of this whole set of data, don't do anything with this column. I can say, like a states column, right? Probably that's not PI or PHI, but I want it to associate with the right state. So I can say pass that through, and it wouldn't the model wouldn't create new data, but pass the data.
Or if there's a key there somewhere, have that.
So Yes, we give it information about the keys too, unique key, primary key, foreign key. It kind of maps all the data accordingly as well. So the keys are going to be mapped. Good question again.
Question from Anna.
Mhm.
And she asked, what tool are you using to train the ML on the data model?
I wish I could know exactly how it works, but I have to call my data scientist for that. So it's again, it's training a model. I do not have all the intricacies of the details, but if somebody's interested, come back to me, and I can get you in connect with the data team. So please, you know what? There's candy for everybody, but I appreciate you asking the question. Go for it. So just to keep a sweet tooth. So yes, the intricacies are it's creating a model, it's building up improvement iterations on it. It's kind of it's almost like equations, right? A plus b is equal to c. It's going to add another factor to it, another factor to it till it's as good as the source data it looks at it the second time, third time, and fourth time. And again, I'm not the best person to explain that, but please come back and we can get you somebody who can answer that question better. But I'm going to focus more on the functionality and the output and how we can take it forward. So here's the story, right? We went in, we had an application, we went to production data, we got a set of production data attributes from it. We created a model and it created synthetic data for us, just like the source data. The fun part is this model can be thrown into any lower environment, right? It can be securely moved into, let's say you got it from a production data, and you can push this model to SIT1, UAT2, whatever it is, and you can generate the data in any volume you want because the model is there and it can generate like 100 records, 1,000 records, a million records if you need it. So that's the fun part. Absolutely. So I showed you two tables which are related right now. There's a primary key, foreign key, right? So the two tables were right here in the folder. That was the application table and the account balance table.
Yeah,
So it's just for example, and I've kept it very simple just to explain it and show the application as well. So that's the good part about this model, right? But it needs source data. So it's not like a one and all solution, right? So it's good if you can complement. If I were to come and propose an enterprise solution, I would look at this for existing applications where you have databases, content, and stuff like that, and you would complement with the synthetic solution, if you will, right? So you can look at, let's take a small example, right? Let's go back to the database. So in this, you saw a lot of savings and checking, correct? So maybe people just, that's the 99% usage of it. But maybe there's a business account also possible, but that wasn't chosen at all. So what you can do is complement your solution with synthetic data like that and say, hey, a tool like, I'm not going to name, but XYZ can create the synthetic data for you and complement it back into the database. You can create negative cases and you can put that data too. So you can do a data-driven testing, and that's almost magical. I've seen it work wonders because the data can drive all your pieces of code just by weighting that data. And we're going to see it a little more as we go along. So, okay, any questions or can I continue? Awesome, thanks for the thumbs up. All right, so what are we doing next, right? So we have data, and I'm just going to take it to a slightly different flow, right? This is Elita, a tool that I think my colleague also presented yesterday, and I'm sure it's not visible on that screen, so I'm going to move it to the shared screen. Alrighty. So that's the tool that we have. It's Elita, and what I'm trying to stitch here is the creation of
What is this?
Elita. Yeah.
Jackie has a question. Is this open source?
Elita. So there is a version that's open source, but it's called AI Dial, and it's a similar product, but this one is a licensed product, right? And again, get back to us. We can give you more information if you need to individually, right? So what we're trying to do here is I'm going to go with one duplicate window just so I can show you more. And there are the concept of agents. I think some of you heard from previous sessions and stuff like that, but you have these agents which can be a counterpart for a tester to do some activities, right? You can have a automation agent, you can have a manual tester, test case creation agent. You can have an agent that can, complement all these things, and it's almost like Avatar. I had this visual where you would have Elita in the middle, and it's like an avatar of a product owner, then a person who can write the test cases, then test automation expert and stuff like that. And it can even go into your repository. It can do a lot of interesting things like
So it's kind of like an LLM for specific.
it's
trained
a,
specific
it's a front end
each
for
one.
LLM.
Yeah.
So let's
each one of those, like,
Yep. You're exactly right. So I'm going to go into create test cases with test data because that's my story, right? I have test data. I'm trying to complete that story for you. What do you do with the synthetic data, right? And how can you use it effectively to drive your testing, data-driven testing again? So I have this again. This is the tool. I'm not going to go too detail into this, but if somebody's interested, please come back to me and we can talk about the tool. We can give you a demo and stuff like that. So this concept of agents. You can have multiple agents do a specific task. You have instructions that kind of feeds into what it needs to do and stuff like that. And you have different tools, right? It can connect to a very good set of tools, right? Jira, Confluence, Git. It also has a API connectivity. So if you have something specific, you can use a custom API to connect to that and stuff like that. So what I have done is, of course, I've connected to Confluence. I got the requirements from there. And it's my same application I was talking about, right? I'm saying $200 bonus and stuff like that. And I say, go Confluence. I have a previous agent that goes to Confluence actually and gets a summary of the description. I can move that to Jira if we need to. And I'm going to take it right from here. Was there a question? Oh, zoom in. Oh, absolutely. Thank you for asking. Let's go to view and zoom in.
Thank you.
Better? Okay. Or one more? Okay, awesome. So yeah, it's got some very interesting features. I think this tool is quite ahead, but anyway, I'm not going to go into that. It's got opportunity to share. You can do these things. You can share with your team members. You can share within your project and stuff like that. When you create an agent, you have agents that can do specific tasks and stuff like that. But what we are focused on today is this agent is going to help me as a tester take my test data from a data source and put that directly into your test case. So I have a CSV file that I was generated, right? You saw I had a couple of CSV files. So this is the first tool that I have as a data source. As a data source, it's going in and getting my CSV file and holding it in in an internal vector database, if you will. And when I say go and generate test cases for me, what it's doing, so it's collecting all this content, it's passing it as a RAG to an LLM. You have a huge choice of what LLM you want to piggyback on, right? So there's a laundry list. I think it keeps growing by the day, but you can piggyback on whatever you have in your enterprise, if you will. But long story short, it's collecting information from Confluence, from Jira. You can get it from GitLab, GitHub, whatever you have. You can say, hey, here's my requirements, right? My product owner gave me 100 pages of requirements. Read from that, create test cases for me. Plus, you can have a tool like TDSpora or other tools, create the data and pass that as a data source and say, hey, use this data. Because LLMs are great, but they don't know my landscape. They don't know what my database is. They don't know what rules I have within my own system. So that's the magic of creating data for our environment and passing that into your test case. So it's absolutely relevant and contextual, if you will. All right. So you saw it created the test cases, right? And you saw the URL. That's the URL of my application. I'm just going to click it for you. Okay. It's a right URL. It's got the names. This is exactly my data. The synthetic data. Jack Sparrow. I know very well because I've been playing with that a lot. And it said, hey, there's my negative test case. I said, give me two positive and one negative. So John Doe, and it's got content, and it's got one negative, which kind of doesn't have an email or something like that. It'll pick whatever it, and we can give more variations to it, right? We can say, I just give 3 test cases. You can say give 100 test cases and pick up all the variations possible. Or you can say, here's my data set. I have 50 rows of unique combinations, right? Positive, negative, covering states, covering male, female, or whatever possible combinations, and drive my test cases from that data. So we can say, go through those rows and create a test case for each of the You don't really have to do that. You can create a framework. I'm going to come to that next, but you can create test cases in any way you like, is what I'm trying to put the ball back in your, your court. You have the power to do it. So let's take it a step forward, right? So let's close this one. And let's look at, okay, this was something what I had created earlier for y'all, just in case. So this is another agent. I'm going to run it again, but I'm just going to show you first what it does, right? I said, hey, go into my test cases that I have earlier, test cases. And all these are agents that can be run as a series. You can call one agent from another, you can put them together, or you can chat with them in a chat window as well. And you can say, put all these agents, and first chat goes to this, create test cases, agent number one. Second agent, automation engineer, please create the automation script for us. So you can create them all together. So here's the script that I created. And yes, it's a learning thing. It has to be fed right instructions. It can fumble a little bit, and you might have to give better instructions to make it better. But think about it, right? You're not writing automation script from scratch. You're not creating test cases from scratch. You are getting something in your hand that you probably just have to edit a few places or improve the agent to give you a better data. That's the magic. It's almost like magic, if you will. But and the best part is, I just ran this before the call. I think was sitting in the back there and running it. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick this code. I'm going to rewrite for all of you, but I'm just going to pick this code for now and show you what it can do. Right. So I have PyCharm open on my machine, and it's in this side of the window. I'm going to move it to your area. Come on. Okay. Time check, please. We have, so we have to, okay. All right, let's do that. And all right, so here is my code from there. I copied it a little earlier, and I'm going to just run it quickly. I'm going to redo it in front of all of you, but I'm just trying to get to what it can do, right? So it's opening up the application. It's putting in the data I gave it. It's checking the validation. It's going to create I put a pause for 3 seconds so I can show you all. I said, and all this is in pure English, right? In the agent, I said, hey, give a 3-second pause before the submit button and after the submit button. I don't even know coding, for example, right? I can still do that. It's all English you need to know and how to instruct the agent. So that's done. It ran the test. It failed one test because we had one negative scenario. And it would have created a report as well. So here's the fun part. It may not be an excellent report, but think about it. I have a folder here. Hopefully, if everything went well. Now the time is 5:08 in my laptop. It should have created a simple report, which is 2 test cases pass, 1 fail. I think the
Passable. It was expecting a fail state.
exactly. So you're right. And again, this is just a demo, so I haven't like gone to the whole 100 yards, but I'm just trying to depict to you what it can do, right? So again, and the ball comes back to you. So you have the ability to create a report. You can create a CSV report, or maybe you can create a flat file that can be consumed into some logs that Splunk integrate or whatever, right? So the limit is on our side of the table, right? So the agents can be built, it can be enhanced, and so on and so forth. So that's the data part. And again, coming back to the story that we had, we were able to get the data from production within the last 1 hour. We had a small simulation. We looked at production data. We generated synthetic data behind it. We took that data. We created test cases around it from a requirement that was in Confluence or in Jira. Probably somebody had written for us. We created an automation script with that, and we ran a few tests. We got a report as well. Of course, there is scope for improvement, there's scope for addition and stuff like that, but that's the magic. So I'll just pause for 30 seconds and let you all ponder or ask questions, if you will.
It's like I take a PyCharm, has some stuff added into it to support like opening that. Well,
You can run this anywhere. It's just Python code. And the beauty of it is, what I did was I told it to create parameterized, data parameterized framework. So if you look at my command here, and just for fun, right? Let me refresh it and try to create it for you all again, right? And let's see if it works on the fly as a demo. But you see that I've requested it to go ahead and create. Did I come into the test scripts one? Here, right? Parameterized Selenium framework. So it's all data driven. And again, data being my space, I love to drive the whole framework through data. So all you see here is, for fun's sake, just before this call, what I did was I went in and I said, oh, where am I? Hi, Cham. Hey. All right, there it is. So I was just trying to create some synthetic data for all of you. So what did I do? I went into Elita. I said, create me 100 rows of data. I used that data and I put it into this and I made it drive the script. So it created that 100 rows of data in the database that you see right now. And all this was like when I was sitting right behind there, 30 minutes back. That's the power you get that, using English language and the connectors, you're able to, play the role of a developer, a tester, and so on and so forth. And your agent is, it's almost unlimited set of ports that you can put into it. All right. So I think that's a quick thing. Okay, this is the script it created right now. And just for fun sake, let's copy it and see how it goes, right? Maybe it's been improving a lot from the day I created first. And I think I do see, so that I don't need to copy. So I just need the script. So if I right click and say, well, okay, fingers crossed. Okay, there was something wrong. I think I didn't copy the code. Should here, to copy the code only. Let's try that once more. There you go. Right in front of you, I asked the agent to create code, and it's a working piece of code. It took a little bit to get here for all of us, but the joy I could see after it ran was tremendous. Love to share with all of you. Thank you. All righty. That's kind of the key things I had for this presentation. So that's me. Feel free to come back to me. I have my LinkedIn link. You have the QR code for feedback. I think that's a big thing here. So I really appreciate if you can give a feedback. Positive, negative doesn't matter, but I love to hear what I can do better so I can present better next time. So we're all learning. I can't use agent there, but we're learning. So that's what I had today. Any questions, anything, any comments, any other questions? Yep.
Is there any need for capturing and storing agents? What they do before you start your automation? I'm not sure if you're already into this.
You don't. So these collection of connectors are growing by the day. I just go and log in and I see our development team just added something new. The iteration where we had an agent that can go in and get objects, can get XPath of these objects. So you can run against a screen and say, hey, go to this URL, connect to it, and get the XPath for all the objects in that page. And you can get a list of that. So again, it's upon you to build that agent, or of course, we are here to help and we do it for a lot of clients. But all I'm trying to say is the power is in the person who's creating the agent to go in and do these things. So you can go get your tags, you can use that, you can put them in the automation script, you can put them, driven from your data, test cases, tags, and all that into combination. And it's basically learning, right? It's like, imagine a human going and reading Confluence, Jira, a whole Git repository of 100 pages, if you will, test automation scripts. And it can also learn and say, hey, you already have automation scripts for these 10 scenarios. I can say complement it, or I can say the $200 bonus, right? So I was playing around with this scenario where I said, instead of $200 bonus, we are giving you a $400 bonus. So what would I do? I would start with a use case in my Confluence and say, change the requirement from 200 to 400. And then we ask Elita to go build test cases just for the change that I did, for the change request. So it was able to build just test cases for that. And I said, enhance my automation script to add that. So it can, there's another interesting scenario, right? So somebody asked me, how can I make sure my pack is great and I complement it only with the right set? Yes, we can do that. But the pace of creating the whole set is so enormously fast. You don't even have to worry about it. Just go ahead and create the whole script again. You can use the same data. You can use the same file for the data source. But you can say, hey, based on this requirement, change the scenario of the test case, but still use my test data from this board. So again, the combinations are unlimited, right? But the great part is, why were we so safe about our test cases and our automation scripts? Because it took a long time to build them. It took a lot of reading. It took a lot of learning to build these automation scripts. But if I can do it over a click of few buttons, why would I worry about losing it? I'd say, hey, go ahead, do it all over again. I don't care. As far as you have the coverage and you're covering all my data and all the test cases are available, do it again. It's just some computing power. So that's the dramatic shift that we're looking at. And yeah, again, if anybody is excited about it, reach out to us. We can come in and demo for you, look at your use case, and help thing. But my goal today was to share my experience with test data, right? So I've been in the data space for over a decade. I started in one of the Fortune 100 companies in 2013, and that time we were all based on some tool. We learned it and we did that. We did things manually and stuff like that. And then we saw a huge journey of multiple tools. I've implemented for multiple customers, and it's evolved so extensively that you can integrate it right into your whole life cycle there. So I'll stop. I'll let you all consume what we spoke about and get back to me if you're interested.
There's
Yes.
also a few people online asking, could you
Yes.
share more details of the names of the tools used? I guess we direct them to reach out to you.
Yeah, they can reach out to me, either of these channels, and I can get back to you with details. But it's on it's on the, again, I'm not marketing it, but so you can come back to me internally and I can share more details. And if anybody wants to know about TD Spora, you want to know about this tool's architecture, we can talk about TD Spora, like test data Spora, TD Spora. And you know what? I had the web page open for you here. I think, if I'm not wrong, I can share that. And this is open URL. Anybody can go in. It's tdspora.ai. You have different costing models about how it does stuff, and you can write to me. I can get you the teams connected and so on. But yeah, data is not like one shoe fits all. You have to go assess, evaluate, and get a customized solution for that. And it's not magic that you just create data 100 rows and use it in your. It's not as simple as that too. So thank you.